So now I'm going to take you through how to actually use Pinterest for your business or organization. So you should by now have watched some of the kind of the basic tutorial about why Pinterest is useful. But this is very much more the kind of strategic information. So there's loads and loads of videos in the training room that you can easily check out on how to actually do the stuff. So once you've kind of learned, you can go back and find out how to actually do it. So the basics of kind of pinning. So just like other social media platforms, you need to be sharing useful and relevant content, just like Facebook or Twitter, by pinning the right internet content. So each pin that you pin is basically a link to a piece of website content, and it's kind of that easy. It's really easy to pin as you browse on the internet. So if you're just looking for other useful content for your other platforms, you can really easily then pin that to Pinterest. Don't just pin your own content though, just pin lots of other people's content as well, because people aren't really going to engage with you if you just pin stuff that you've actually done. And if you are working for a kind of online business that sells products online, make sure that you include prices with your pins because they're more likely to be shared. So you pin useful and interesting website content to themed boards. So this is just a short bit about creating effective boards. You want to use the boards really to make sure you add some personality to your brand. That's one of the really nice things about Pinterest. So create boards that are based around your kind of brand persona, and try and think creatively and visually. So if you're a yoga studio, you might have one board that is very much about yoga poses. You might have another board that's about very, very healthy detox recipes. You might have another board that's about acupuncture. You might have another board that's about some other aspect of holistic health. So kind of think about the brand of your business and like who you are and how that translates to who you are online, and create boards that are themed around those. And obviously if you're selling things online, create boards that are based around your products. So you can also give a bit of a quirky edge as well by sharing slightly unusual things on Pinterest. This is really where the kind of nice aspect of the personality comes in. So depending on the brand, you could be a bit silly and you could share pictures of your team's pets, perhaps give them all the same kind of hat to give them the same look. You can share a board of your team photos, but not just your kind of standard shots of your team, but maybe photos of them when they were kids or really bad outfits they wore in the past. You can kind of, make it something that's quite fun to bring a bit of a fun element to your brand. But you can, if it's not quite right for your brand to be that silly, if you're a very high-end restaurant, for example, and you want to be very classy, you might not want to do that. But you can still be, you can still bring personality in. So if you were that kind of brand, you might showcase favourite architecture of your team in your area, and your favourite bars and restaurants and things like that. So it's kind of, you're bringing that team personality element in, but in a way that fits your brand a little bit more. One of the great things about boards is that you can use them to be an authority in your area in the same way, again, that you can with Twitter, say. And you essentially create boards that offer useful and authoritative advice in your area of expertise. So Hackney Social and Digital Mums we work in PR, so we share best practice and useful tips in and around using different things like Pinterest, for example, for your business. So add content from other authoritative sources, like not just your own. So we don't share just our own videos, but we share hints and tips and tricks from other PR agencies, like people like M&C Saatchi, who've got a highly reputable brand in the space that we work in. And then you really want to be kind of the go-to place for reliable information about your subject area. And using the example that I talked about on the other slide about the yoga studio, that's a really good way of doing that. And when you talk about the yoga poses and what they're good for, that people will kind of really start to come to you for that kind of information. So you can include a list of recommended readings, you can include charts and infographics that help people understand what you do. As I've said, with the yoga poses and the yoga studios, cafes and restaurants, you might share recipes that fit your brand, how to nail roast chicken, top tips for storing meat, things like that. Pubs and bars might share cocktail recipes, beautiful artwork, kind of music of the moment, just to be seen as kind of trendy and cutting edge. Clothes shops high-end clothes shops and boutique clothes shops might share high fashion shots, but also how to wear this season's looks, beauty products, but also you might throw in stuff like destination holidays because you're kind of selling a lifestyle. It's really important to be topical and to link with trends. People do tend to go on Twitter to kind of know what's trending. So you can link in with trends, so fashion trends like autumn winter collections. You could also link in with particular times like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, particularly if you sell gifts that might fit in with those things. So it's really important to kind of link in with those, create mood boards, particularly boards around those trends. Have a new arrivals board perhaps to showcase all your new products or your new menu items or new campaigns, or, whatever kind of fits with your business. Just to show that you're kind of, you're really cutting edge. So it's quite important. And then, once you've got your boards and your pins, how do you start thinking about actually increasing your reach? How do you actually start to build a community? Well, the first thing is just make sure that you're easy to find. So kind of organise your boards in a sensible way. Don't put food recipes and things in some sort of random board, in with general homewares. Like, be quite specific and think about how you actually organise your boards and make them kind of quite niche. So don't throw too many in there, or someone that's going in there looking for recipes will start seeing things about homewares and they'll just be really confused and they're not likely to follow you. And you can also kind of tag and categorise by popular search terms. Add search terms in the descriptions when you are pinning things. And then don't just have your business name, put in information that will help people to find you, put in search terms within your biogs and things like that. And make sure you check in your search privacy settings, because you can actually accidentally have kind of privacy settings on. So just make sure that you're completely open and public and everything is open and public so that search engines can find you. And then you, as with other platforms, want to start kind of really engaging with people, so find new people to interact with. And obviously aim for those sharing the most relevant content for you. It's going to be the most useful for your business. Follow and comment on pins of really popular pinners, so they'll have lots of followers, so you kind of want to link with those people. You can also create open boards, open collaborative boards, basically anyone can pin to. It's a really nice way for people to interact with your brand. So if you're homewares, you might have stylish sofas, and other people can kind of interact and add sofas that they've seen from other places. Tag other pinners into the content if it's of relevance to them, particularly if you've got kind of popular pinners you've made a bit of a connection with. You can pin something really beautiful that you think they're going to like. Then obviously they're much more likely to then repin that on their board and reach all of their followers. You can also collaborate directly with those very popular pinners. Unlike with Twitter, you can engage with the Twitterati on Twitter, but that's kind of the extent, is to have a conversation with them, and then they might share a link. But you can actually collaborate with pinners. That you could have like a pinner of the month. They could have their own regular board on your Pinterest, because you can make the boards open and collaborative. You can kind of invite people to come and pin things, and obviously then that gives you exposure to all of their followers, and you can give them an incentive to do that. So if you're a store, then you could give them a discount, or if you're a restaurant, they could come and eat for free. There's lots of kind of incentives. If you're a very big brand, it might be that just the exposure would be enough for them. If you ran a popular magazine, for example, and they could be showcased in the magazine. So just kind of think about different incentives that you could offer them, and obviously you can also ask them the kinds of incentives that they might like. You can also run competitions, which is really nice. So you can actually get customers to pin images of them interacting with your business. So whether it's eating in your cafe or restaurant, whether it's using a product, say you sell cake tins, they might share photos of cakes that they've baked from them, and then you can run a kind of best photograph wins, or you could make it kind of unusual and have the most unusual photo wins. I know that a yoga studio that I go to basically is running a competition to do a yoga pose of the month, but you have to kind of do it in a really unusual place, so it kind of it makes it fun, and it makes people kind of quite like to get involved. And then the competition that they're running, you can win a free month access. So just think about different incentives and different ways to get people involved that's fun. You can also get customers to create boards based on themes of relevance to your business. So if you're a cafe or a restaurant, you could get customers to create boards around kind of different ways of cooking chicken, for example, and that way they're kind of generating content, and you can again, basically give them a competition for the best one. So they don't necessarily have to run those boards like on your Pinterest. They could be running a board on their own Pinterest. You can be monitoring them, and then you can see who's come up with the most amazing ways with chicken, and then you could give them the prize. You can actually get some apps to run these things. So Wishpond have got a Pinterest contest app, so you can kind of play around and check some of those things and see how useful they are. And things to offer are discounts and 2-for-1s, as well as straightforward prizes. The good thing about discounts is obviously, say you give them a 20% discount, you're still making money out of that because you're encouraging them to shop with you. So you're kind of creating some loyalty through the competition. So obviously you want to use Pinterest to drive traffic to your website. Now, a lot of people don't realise this, but it actually drives more traffic than Google+, LinkedIn and YouTube combined. So it's a really, really great social media platform for driving traffic to websites. But don't expect people to just be blanket pinning things on your website. The reality is that 80% of what people pin are repins. So someone else has already pinned it. It's not necessarily coming from people's websites directly. So it sounds like there's kind of 20% of people that are pinning really amazing content directly from websites, and then other people are just pinning what they're pinning. So that's sort of how it's working at the moment. But obviously that 20% is still quite a lot, so encourage that as much as possible by adding a prominent pin it button on your website to encourage people to pin as much as possible. And then you're not going to drive traffic from pins to your website unless you've actually put your website URL with your pin. And there's a video that will kind of show you how to do that, so don't worry about the actual ins and outs of that. But essentially it's all about adding the URL so that when people actually click that pin, they go through to your website. And then make sure that you're consistent and engage regularly, so maybe spend 10 minutes a day. Don't do absolutely loads of pinning once every 2 weeks, because that's not really how it works. You just build in 10 to 15 minutes every day, perhaps in the evening when the kids are in bed, to do your pinning. And it only, that's all it takes genuinely, is just like 10 to 15 minutes. Just be strategic as possible as well. Don't put everything on your boards and don't pin everything. So maybe think about adding some teaser content. So add some basic information in your pins, and then lead that back to more advanced content on your website. Obviously with products, you want to showcase the products as much as possible, and intersperse those with very beautiful images of other products. So say you're selling homewares, you might put in insanely expensive homewares that people can't really afford, but then intersperse with products that fit with that lifestyle choice that they can afford from your online shop, for example. Use your imagination when naming your boards as well. Don't just be really generic. So if you were sharing, say, detox recipes, say you're a yoga studio and you're sharing detox recipes in January, don't call it January detox recipes. I mean, that's just boring. So put something like, in 2014, you can, get yourself in shape on the inside and the outside with these detoxes. Just kind of try and be like a bit aspirational. Don't just be generic. And then you want to make sure that your most important boards are first. So, above the fold. So as soon as people come, they see the most important boards first. So just make sure that when you're arranging them, the most important ones come up first, especially those that have got the most kind of products. And then you can actually change those to fit with topical themes. So you can make the ones that are up front, Valentine's Day or Mother's Day. So, make sure that you're thinking carefully about where your boards are. And then just kind of be smart about learning about what works. So Pinterest, when you set up a business account, it's got really nice analytics actually. It's got a really nice package. So you can actually really track referrals to your website and just see what's working and what people are repinning, etc. So just kind of use those stats to learn what's working and what isn't, and then improve as you go along. And in the analytics section, you can find out a lot more about how to do that and the ins and outs of that. So just think carefully about evaluating and improving. So that's the kind of how to be strategic. So now you kind of, you've got a bit of an idea, just go into the back into the training room to find out exactly how to do some of that stuff.